really excited that we all get to be here together. We have a great crowd of people, I think, that are joining us today, but really understanding the idea of, and the purpose of all of us getting together is just to talk about the concept of really what it takes and what it looks like to empower each other in the idea of women rising together. So Denise, if you wouldn't mind, I would love for you to go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the purpose and objectives of Rise.
Hello, everybody. For those of you that I don't know, I'm Denise Chiria, and I'm the current board chair for RVWA for this year. And just as I know we have a lot of different people with a lot of different experience with RVWA, just as a quick overview, when it comes to our mission, it's really to elevate, educate, and promote women in the industry. And, as we thought about all of the different ways, one of the things that we think is critically important is showing representation and really seeing those leaders and people who have grown in our industry and learning from them. And when we talk about Rise and we talked about what we were going to do for the theme for Women's History Month this year, we really think of Rise not only as a elevation in position, which a lot of times we tend to associate it with that, but also just rising to your potential, rising to learning new things, really using all the resources and people around you in this, what I have found to be an incredible group of women and allies, to really use that to rise for yourself and what that means for you, both in your career and in your personal life. And I think that's one of the things that we all have a life outside of work. And when we think about rising, making sure that we're really thinking about rising as a person and really in everything that we do. So we really wanted to find some folks that we have all, really loved their mentoring and their insight information, and absolutely thrilled to have Toby, Brenda, and Donna on the call today. So hopefully everybody gets a lot out of this session. We're really hoping as we go forward with RVWA that we are able to do more of these things. We know how much it is helpful just to hear things from a different perspective, and who's maybe not your direct manager, and just hearing from all these different angles, and also making sure that we have representation across the industry, whether it's supplier, campground, OEM, dealer, making sure that there are so many different ways that women are impacted in this industry. So hopefully this is just the first of many ways to highlight that. So with that, I'll pass it back over to you, Ashton.
Great. Well, just for a brief introduction, I'm really honored to be able to be here and to be able to moderate our panel today. Pretty much just get to, continue to have a great conversation with a lot of wonderful women. I am the president of Huebner Marketing. We're an agency that is located in Fort Collins, Colorado. And we have been around for about 35 years and really have had a focus on manufacturing. And we have a lot of longstanding partnerships within the RV industry, and we're a strategic partner for all of our partners in those fields. So one of the things that I really love about the work that I get to do is it's really based off of curiosity. Like there are so many different elements and pieces of what drives us based off of things that we love, and it allows us to push in further into those things. And those are some of the things that really have created impact and have been things that are meaningful to me, the work that we do that ends up creating some of those pieces that, I'm proud to look back on and be like, wow, we partnered with them and they're successful, and their success is really what drives us. So I'd love just if we could start, Donna, with you, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, background, where you currently are working at, and if you want to tell us a little bit of your career history, that would be wonderful.
Thank you very much. I am Donna Warr. I'm the Director of Sales of Valterra products in the Dometic Sanitation Division. I've been with the company for 37 years now. It's been a fun journey kind of growing up through the company. I think some of my biggest achievements, I like the advancements that I've had the opportunity to be making over the years, especially while managing and maintaining a family. I've got 5 children, I've got 3 dogs and a husband. So I've got a full-time day. And I think really I find it in a lot of effort to make sure that I keep the family and home life, work life in a separate mode. So family time is family time, work time is work time. And just come in every day with just a positive attitude and just do the best that I can each day.
Wonderful. What about you, Brenda? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Brenda Wintrow. I have the pleasure of serving on the RVWA board with Susan and this great organization that she's created. And I think I'm going into my second year with that. I've been with Camping World for 17 years this year. I'm EVP of operations, and we're the largest RV dealer network group in the nation, and a little over 200 rooftops supporting RV enthusiasts from coast to coast. So I'm a mom of two boys, a 22-year-old and a 25-year-old, and I have an awesome little Australian Labradoodle that now my youngest son says he's all of a sudden a middle child. It makes him very uncomfortable and upset because I don't talk about them as much as I used to. It's all about the dog. And I have a loving, wonderful husband. I'm very fortunate and supported by them, so it allows me to do what I do. I'm based out of Atlanta. Our corporate headquarters are in Chicago, so I spend a disproportionate amount of time on the road. But just very fortunate and grateful for the opportunities that have come my way, and being able to hopefully provide opportunities for associates that work in my company and even outside of the company to be able to enter this awesome lifestyle. It's just really unique and special. So thanks for having me today. I appreciate it, and I'm excited to have this discussion with the group.
Great. Thanks, Brenda. And Toby, would you mind introducing yourself as well and tell us a little bit about your career path?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. It's really great to see everybody and be invited to speak on this panel. It's definitely an important topic. So I like when we can bring women together to talk about what we've done and how we can bring more women along with us. My position is the CEO and president of Kampgrounds of America. I'm located in Montana, Billings, Montana specifically, and that's where KOA was founded 62 years ago. So it's pretty special for us that we have this national brand headquartered in Montana. For those of you who've been here, you know, it's a big state with not a lot of people. And so I feel very fortunate that I'm able to be here and be in my home state. Montana is where I grew up. Few things about my career path is it's very blended. I actually started in software development and moved into tech consulting. And then after graduate school, started food marketing, and really started to zero in on digital marketing as my area of expertise, probably because of my tech background. And, you know, lots of things combined brought me to KOA. So I always like to say that my career went from software to, sausage, because I was marketing Hillshire Farm smoked sausage, to soy milk, because I was marketing soy milk, to s'mores. So that's really me in a nutshell. Is how my career has progressed to now leading this camping organization, which is a really great alignment with who I am as a person. You know, living in Montana, I have a family as well, 4 children, and we definitely raise our family outdoors. I was raised outdoors, so it's really important to me to work for a company that shares the similar values.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think there's something so unique about being able to bring things that you love from your workspace into your home life. And I know that I'm sure that each of us probably have a different view or different ways that we go about what our home life, like Donna, what you were saying, like you have very clear boundaries on home life and work life. And like for me, for instance, mine really flow together. And that's a decision that I've made and how I approach my life and with my children and family and how that works. And I've had different people and mentors in my life that have really shifted my viewpoint of understanding like a life as a whole. Like what do you want your life to be filled with, and how does your work support your life, and how does your life make you better at your work? And so being able to kind of strike that kind of a balance is something that has been, impactful for me. I would love to dive into a little bit too about something that's really impactful from your career. One of those hurdles that may have happened that you felt like you had to have a little bit of extra grit to be able to push through. And what was something, a challenge that was in your way that either you had somebody come alongside and was able to help you work through that, or how you were able to have the determination and perseverance to be able to follow through. Brenda, why don't we start with you on this one, if you're okay with that?
I think I'm so fortunate that I work in an organization that champions women, right? If you look at our leadership team, our executive team, it's over 50% women. If you look, and that's not necessarily always standard in the industry. So I think a lot of credit and a lot of gratitude that I have I have to direct to our CEO, Matt Wagner, and our CEO, Marcus. And they are make sure that there's always great representation around the table with varying opinions. And it wasn't always like that. As Matt and Marcus have been with the company for a long time, there's been different leaders that have come in, and you're always kind of like fighting to have your voice heard. And there was a moment probably 3 years ago, it was in the middle of COVID, and I was just feeling extremely stressed and what are we going to do, and how are we going to service customers, and how are we going to keep our associates safe, right? We were fortunate that we were able to keep every single one of our dealerships open during that time to be able to serve customers. But there was a lot of worry around our team members going into work and just how we were going to continue to take care of each other, and a lot of stress from that moment. And I'll never forget Marcus calling me one day, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Why are you kind of getting in your own way and in your own head?" He was like, "You're capable, you're smart, you've earned this." So I think we often talk about having women leaders and support around us, but it's also equally important to have, regardless of their sex, just general support, right? And to know that there are the men who will stand up for that as well, I think really sets the tone for what all of us are doing, what we can do, what we have done. So that was just a real boost of confidence because, I mean, frankly, we were kind of scared how we were going to navigate it, and were we giving good advice, and were we doing the right thing by keeping folks safe and being able to still serve our customers and our team members. So that's one thing that I always go back to. That was a pep talk I'll never forget. And there was like where there's self-doubt, but when you have folks around you, and I always go back to, and what I always tell my team is we truly belong to each other. And to be curious and be thoughtful, and it's okay to have a bad day, and home gets hard, and especially when we're raising young children and trying to navigate travel, it's okay to have a hard day. But when you have the support of those around you, I think the sky's the limit. Really, we're not limited to what we can do. Sometimes we put own limitations on our mind that even folks around us aren't feeling that way. But yeah, he just told me to get out of my own way. It's probably the best career advice I ever had, and just go forth and conquer, if you will. So that's it.
I love that. I think that there's some of those moments too that I have like buried in the back of my mind that stand out as here's an opportunity. Here's like, here are what your roadblocks are. I'm going to call them out for you. And then we're just going to mow them down because it's ready to keep going forward. Like, you have this. I mean, any of those pep talks, some of those, they don't know at the time how impactful they really are. But when you're able to speak truth into somebody else's life, and you're able to actually encourage and bring their life to life, like there's just something so super powerful in that. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. So he said to me, I'll never forget it. I'll just leave with this and then we can move on. I said, "Why me?" And he was like, "Why not you?"
Mm-hmm.
And those are just words that have sat with me for a really long time. And I think I would say to anybody out there, don't question it. Reach out for support. Find your tribe. Love them hard, and build each other up. And just because you're having a bad day today or whatever, it's like the tables turn. We support. We do whatever, but just show up and put your best foot forward. And I think things always work out exactly how they're supposed to. So
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Toby, can you tell us a little bit about any major roadblocks that you've overcome, or anything that stands out in your mind as kind of that significant step that you took to be able to kind of pave the way of where you're at now?
I can think of a couple, and they go back early in my career here at KOA. And the first one, and is when I talk to women or young women or whatever about owning your career path, one thing I like to talk about is you have to speak up. And the example I point to happened, I'd probably been at KOA just a couple of years. So I've been here 13 years now, and I'd probably been here a couple of years. I was overseeing the marketing department. I was the only woman in leadership at that time. And this was a very operations driven organization at the time. We also at KOA have a software product. We are a campground company, but we also are a software company, which a lot of people don't know. And I was coming in right with a tech background, and was very observant about the direction we were going with that technology. I may have only been here about a year, I'm not sure, but I had a seat at the table because of my position, but I wasn't really using my voice, and it was very overpowered by maybe other leaders that had been here a lot longer and in the industry a lot longer. But I distinctly remember I pulled my CEO in at the time, and told him that I disagreed with the direction the company was going with the software product. You know, I had my reasoning and I laid that out, my case, and I just held my ground. And he was very angry about it. And I don't think he was angry at me. He was just angry more about, oh, this is so complicated. And now there's this other voice at the table. But also, I mean, I felt a little bit of, you know, this really isn't your space. This isn't your area. You're a marketer. But I said, you know, and I remember distinctly saying, you hired me for a reason, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think, and this is based off my experience. And although that conversation was really messy, I was really proud of how I held my ground. And honestly, that was a huge turning point in our relationship. And I did fine after that. I felt like he had a lot more respect for me, and my trajectory at the company started to change. And I was starting to being brought in more on the bigger projects and being looked to for counsel, because I wasn't afraid to voice the dissenting opinion. So that's one I would point to. And I always try to tell women in particular that when you're given a seat at the table, you have to use your voice. And sometimes you could be the youngest person. I was very young too. I was, you know, early 30s, and all the other leaders in the company were older than me. So it wasn't just my gender, it was my age. So sometimes you can feel a little bit of that imposter syndrome, but you have to step up and use your voice if you're given that seat at the table. And that's something I always tell people. Like, if you're brought into this meeting, I haven't heard from you yet, you know, you were invited to this meeting for a reason. You need to participate and try to coax that out of people and model that it's really important to use your voice.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's great. I think that yeah, I've noticed sometimes based off of different personalities or based off of how somebody's been treated previously in previous roles, whether or not they feel comfortable speaking out, or, you know, Toby, to your point, whether or not it's something that you have to, as a leader, encourage them in and create a pathway for them to understand their unique position and perspective and how it actually helps the whole. So I think that's really, really important. Just, I mean, for anybody listening or leaders, just to think about what you're doing to not only bring the right people to the table, bring them to the table with purpose and intention, and give them space to let their voice be heard. That's wonderful. Donna, what about you? We'd love to hear from you.
How I got into the industry, or what was?
Specifically, if there was any certain challenges or roadblocks for you as you're, you know, in the position that you're in now, if there's something that was memorable that you really felt like changed the course for you, or something that you had to overcome in order to be able to be sitting where you are now.
Okay. Well, I came in, even though growing up in a family with 6 kids and being a twin, I came into industry kind of a very quiet and shy person. And so coming into industry, working with customers, I had to learn how to not be an introvert, to be more of an extrovert, so that I can really socialize, have that good connection stuff with them. And, you know I kind of worked my way from receptionist to customer service, but that transition from customer service into sales, I had a good mentor, and that was my boss, George Grings. And he always said, you know, you do good with customer service, and sales is a form of customer service. And he says, you do great with that. You can do great with this. And I just remember thinking, well, what do I know about sales? Where's my training in that? You know, where's my background? Here I'm this quiet, shy person. And so his encouragement kept, you know, showing me that I love to be around people. I love to talk. And you know, the whole engaging, it's not just with customers, it's with even suppliers. So when you go to a trade show, you feel like it's part of your family, because when you're on the road a lot, you see, you know, many times you're with them more than your family itself. And so getting that comfort and stuff, I think, of engaging with people. And then again, starting off pretty young as well. I think I just started just a little after high school. So young, female, not a lot of, you know, women in the industry and stuff. You kind of try to draw to see who was there that you can be comfortable with. And then you had people that just kind of looked out for you. You know, we made sure having, you know, didn't have a lot of us out there. You don't want to get yourself in a bad situation when you're traveling and stuff. And just some really good people in the industry have really helped, you know, break that open, and really caring even to this day. You know, we laugh back, you know, back in stories, you know, do you remember when? And we'd kind of be oblivious and "Well, I didn't realize," but they always had our back. So, it's just some good things like that that happened.
I think that lends perfect way into really talking about when we're continuing to talk about the idea of rise and who was it that gave us the boost? Where did we find some of those people or those mentors that were really impactful to us? I have a handful of people, and I think about there was a man, his name is Mark Hall, and I started out part of my career at CMT MTV Networks. And he started coughing really hard one day when we were doing interviews for this big TV production. And I had just followed him along because I really wanted to absorb and learn from him because he was very talented. And I sat at the back of the room and he started coughing so hard one day that he, in the middle of the production, handed me his outline of the interview questions. And I sat down in front of the lights and just had to keep going for him. But because of something like that for him, that he was able to have me go alongside him and learn from him, and then trusted me enough to take on something, that really changed my trajectory and where I thought, I could be, where I could go, what was possible, and how I could show up and be capable of doing some of these jobs. I mean, I've had various stories of so many people like that throughout my career, but that's that one like tangible time where I'm like, man, that man made such an impact and enabled me to do something to be able to further progress. I would love to know, Toby, if we start with you, do you have anybody in that was a major career mentor for you?
Yeah, several. And I always like to talk about allies or advocates, sorry. I think mentors are great, but
Allies.
I love that and allies are important, and I've had some great allies that obviously men that supported my career path and women mentors. I also like on both sides taking on that form of advocates. And that's what I like to try to be for people too, as an advocate, because an advocate is someone that'll speak up for you when you're not in the room. They're not just coaching you or someone that you're bouncing stuff off of. They're creating opportunities for you. They're speaking up for you when you're not in the room. They're getting you in front of the people you need to and helping create those pathways. And so I think advocates are really important. And I've had several. One I'll go back to is the CEO. I mentioned my previous CEO who, following that turning point, which I point to as a big turning point in our relationship, he became a huge advocate for me, so much so that when it became clear he was going to be retiring, he had tapped me to be his successor. And obviously he can't just choose his successor. That has to be done with the board. But we had the luxury of like 3 years of a transition time, of which he created opportunities for me, got me in the right rooms with the people in the industry I needed to be with the right franchisees to develop that confidence, with the board, presenting those opportunities for me that helped, project me to where I am right now. But going back early in my career, I always like to say, what would Val do? Because Val was one of my early bosses when I was becoming a marketer. And she is still the best female leader I've ever worked for. She's, I watched a woman who was direct and assertive and, properly managed agency relationships and gave good feedback, knew how to manage upwards in the organization. I think she taught me a lot about how to hold myself and be kind and worry about balance and be there for my family and how to show up at the office and also advocate for myself and advocate for my people. And I like to always just say, what would Val do? So those are a couple of people that I point to. And now, honestly, I've got people that I don't even know that I listen to online. Someone I saw once speak at an event, and I've become a rabid follower of some of her stuff and listened to her podcast. And now I feel like she's my personal mentor. I'm learning things from. I think that's what's great about this world of content that we live in, and all these, we get so much exposure to people that are creating such powerful content out there that you can find people you really resonate in and that can really help inspire you and help work through, your upward trajectory. So those are a few from my past and a few that I'm currently engaging with that they don't even know me, but I really, someone once said, who's on your Mount Rushmore? Who would be your faces?
Oh. Interesting. I
And
like that.
those would be a couple of the people on mine, plus a couple of people that wouldn't even know who I was. So I think
That's great. I love the idea of what would Val do. I think we all need somebody like her in our
Yeah.
life.
Right.
And now I'm only going to have Mount Rushmore stuck in my mind and
Yeah,
be filling
I know.
space. I hadn't heard that before. I like it. Yeah. Donna, what about you? Who are people who really helped you rise as far as your professional and personal life go?
Well, I guess personal would be my husband's been very supportive, you know, starting at a young age. We've been together, a little bit longer than I've been working at Valterra. And so there was a lot of travel, for many years, probably up through the last couple of years where it finally slowed down just a little bit. So having your family support is probably your number one, because if you're on the road and you're gone and you don't have the support there, that's a problem. Gotta have the home life balanced. I made sure I always had, because having 5 children, I end up having good daycare. So by the third child, I realized running back and forth to daycare was not easy. So I got a nanny, and that was the best thing. You get one that stays with you, cooks, cleans. And so I always had the good support where she would be there taking care of the family. So I knew the home life was in good balance. And then I used to work half days on Fridays, and I would help with the kids' school when they're in elementary school. Because after elementary school, it's too embarrassing for mom to help out. So did that for all 5 kids. So I gave back with them on that. And then just, people within the company have been great. My boss, George, has been great. The team members that I've worked with, all through customer service, we've just had a really strong team that's been very encouraging. So I can't just say it's just any one person. I just think it's the right environment with the right people, and then having great customers out there, and just a good balance with everybody around. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, because for you, if it's more of like a cultural setting that enables all of the people as a whole to be able to come alongside you and allow you to rise to your potential, and be able to see the things in you that are so important and are able to bring some of those, characteristics to life. And you're talking about like your sales experience. And I think that's really, I love that individuals, but the idea of a culture that helps you rise that's really impactful. That's neat. Thanks for sharing.
You gotta
Brenda,
like when you're working, right? Because we spend a lot of time. It can't
yeah,
it can't be
absolutely.
just a job. It's got to be a career. It's got to be something you really believe in. And Valterra, I feel like it's family. So
Yeah, that's huge. Especially, I mean, I know that there's been days where, there's been personal things that weigh really heavy. And, like you're talking about like bringing yourself into work with so many different things. You have a hard day, to Brenda's point too. And when you have that support around you of people who acknowledge who you are and what you're capable of, and having a bad day doesn't change that as a whole, that's a good place to be. You can actually like value and see the value of your culture and of that overall network of people who surround you, even in those hard days.
yeah.
Yeah. Brenda, what about you? What about you for as far as the individual people or culture, or what do you feel like it's been for you that's enabled you to really rise?
I think for me, I lost my mom pretty young. She was a great example of just perseverance. Had battled, unfortunately, an illness, and she was 49 when she passed. So, but watching everything that she had accomplished and just really what she had instilled in me has been, it really is the guiding light, right? And I still, even though she's been gone now for a really long time, it's still this desire to make her proud. And then the other person in my personal life, this is going to sound so crazy, so you guys bear with me. I am divorced, and I kept custody of my in-laws in the divorce. So my ex-mother-in-law, who I love dearly, and who just has always showed up for me, even after I went through, it was personally devastating. I got divorced in 2010. And to see how she showed up and supported me and was a leader in a big hospital organization. And, we kind of made a pact that regardless of what had happened in my personal life with my marriage, that we were still going to be there for each other. And she really helped, along with my father-in-law, to support me and the kids so I could travel and do different things. So a lot of gratitude for her and the years of my career, and obviously looking back at my mom just for the foundations and things that she laid for me up until that point. People joke and laugh with me all the time because I'm remarried and now we spend holidays at my ex-husband's parents' house because that's just the community that we decided to create because we knew that was going to be the best thing for our children. Professionally, I go back to Matt Wagner. We started back in 2007 at the same time. He's one of the most brilliant minds I've ever met. And I often joke and call him a magical unicorn. And what I mean by that is he's so brilliant and smart, but he's so relatable. And he's just been a great example for me. And even when I think there's nobody harder on ourselves than ourselves, right? And to be able, we get self-critical. We think about everything that we say sometimes and wish that we could have said it differently. Heck, I'm thinking back to the first question that you asked me today. And I wish that I would have maybe, framed that up a little differently. But I think just having that support and something that he's taught me, it's okay to make mistakes. If we fail fast and we pick ourselves back up, and it just can't be a life sentence. And I think I referenced that earlier, but that's really the culture in which we operate. There's 12,000 associates here. We have a very diverse population in our company. I'm so proud of that. And I think it's just how we show up for them. And I think he's been a great example for me and showing me how I want to show up for my team. So if there's, I'm just so grateful for the leadership that's been around me and the example that he sets. And then hopefully I'm able to take that and do the same thing with my immediate team members and then the team members, all throughout our company. But yeah, I know the ex-mother-in-law thing's probably got you guys scratching your head. It just works for us. So.
I love it. I think that there's all those people too, which, people that come into your life for seasons and reasons and however you want to, play out that discussion, but that regardless of what their connection is with you, they get a chance to deeply impact who you are and change the course of how you see things in the future. And I think that's beautiful. And even just your overall tone in everything that I've heard you say so far, Brenda, is truly just having gratitude and just the idea of how having gratitude also allows you to rise because you're not focused on the things that are weighing you down. Like with a perception or perspective shift, you're able to move throughout any of these, the ups and downs that life and careers throw at you. But with a, deep sense of gratitude, you can overcome a lot of things.
Yeah, thank you.
Some of the things that thinking about personal life and, we've talked about personal and professional some, but what are the things that as far as that you personally manage, that you really work hard to be able to create space for what your personal life is, whether it's family, things that you enjoy outside of family, like personal self-fulfilling pieces of hobbies, anything like that. How do you make sure to make time for the work that you're doing in your career and the work that you're doing for the person that you are? Donna, would you like to kick us off this time?
Sure, no problem. I would say like every morning I start off and it's basically my husband's time and our dog's time. And our dogs take us for a walk to the park every morning, bright and early. And we spend about an hour up and down Central Park, up and down the hills. And that's when my husband and I kind of use that time to, if, we're venting from something the day before, it could be work related. It might be something the kids are doing that we're frustrated, but we have that hour of just breathing in the fresh air and just enjoying the views and being dragged around the park with our 3 crazy dogs. And then we just kind of vent it out. And so then, we come back home, everything's great. Dogs are tired out and I'm ready to start my day all vibrated and full of energy.
Yeah.
And then as far as
really make a place for connection to start your day.
we do. So that's kind of our time just, for the 2 of us alone. And then we still do a lot of, we usually try like Friday nights, we try to get the kids to all kind of come on home and do like a family dinner and we do board game nights. And that's been fun because now as they've got like the boyfriends and girlfriends. And so our board game entourage is getting bigger. It's getting harder to all fit around the long table.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But we just spend some time like that. And it's a great, chance to kind of catch up and hey, how is everybody's doing? And, some good bonding and stuff there. So that's some of our favorite times.
Yeah. How do you feel like that is when you're saying you really are when you're at home, and you're at work, you're at work. Are there specific boundaries or things that you have in mind that you've drawn out to be able to make that clear distinction? And how does that work for you?
Well, the last 4 years, I've had the opportunity of working from home. You know, since COVID, with California being one of those states that was open, closed, and closed more than open, we finally got to a point where we realized, you know, we're very efficient, everybody working from home. And we're such a big company and spread out in different states anyways. So that made it easy. And I just make sure I'm in a back room, the door's closed off, and they pretty much know when the door's closed, I'm working. My time's going there. I'll come out when it's my break time or meal time or something, but I completely separate it from there. And when work is done, the end of the day at 5:30, the phone with emails doesn't come out. It gets put away, and it's my family time. We're cooking dinner. We might be going out to the gym. We're just doing our own family stuff together. So that's how I kind of keep it separate.
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing everyone's different techniques and what really works. I've heard about baskets by the front door to like leave a cell phone in, or, leave it somewhere, but whatever those pieces are where you make you acknowledge something that needs to take place in order for you to be present where you need to be present. So that's great. Toby, what about you? What is your work and life and finding that strive or that balance and giving time to yourself look like?
Yeah, I think it's really messy, and I don't have perfect solutions. I have 4 kids, as I mentioned. 2 of those are toddlers, 2 and 3. So we're kind of in the throes of all hands on deck taking care of toddlers. So it's not as easy as it maybe was with just my older 2. I was also a single mom for a few years, so I definitely understand how difficult it is for single moms as well. When I was coming up through marketing and head of marketing, I had 2 little kids and was a single mom for 3 years. So I've never really had a great solution, to be honest with you. I work hard and I mom hard, and I'm a very present mom, and I try to be at everything, and sometimes I can't be. And I've got a really great partnership with my ex-husband. And so there's really 4 of us raising my family of 4, even the little ones. Sometimes it's my ex-husband and his wife that are helping out the little ones. So we're all just in it together. And I think having good support structures, everything from daycare to my ex-partner and my husband, who's wonderful now. So we just make it work. One thing I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to be more selfish with my time. I've always been really good about open door. I'm available all the time, and I found that I don't have time to get my work done. So I'm trying to be a little more selfish and blocking off significant amounts of time in my day throughout the week, a few significant blocks, because I used to be really good about working at home, but I can't do that with the babies. It just doesn't work. So that's been helpful to me in making sure I've just got focused time that I protect on the calendar. And then I'm an early riser, so I'm typically up every morning for a couple hours doing work before everybody else is up. And that's the best way that for me that it works to be on top of my emails or focused on a big project for a couple hours of time before the kids are starting to get up, and then I switch into mom mode for an hour or 2 before I go to the office. So I have a very fluid lifestyle. It's when I hang up from here, I'm headed to take my little girl to a doctor appointment today, and we had parent teacher conference this afternoon, and then sometimes I'm at home and I'm logging in and doing some work. So it's more just how I'm blocking and tackling any given day, and just trying to be fluid. But when I am with my kids, I try to be as present as possible, and my husband as well. And I think that's just something we have to constantly strive to be better at. That it's really important. And when I am in my meetings with whoever I'm meeting with, I'm also making conscious effort to be present with them, because I can be pretty quick, like, oh, make sure my kids aren't calling, or I'm doing this or that, and try to be present with whoever I'm at.
Yeah, I agree. I think that sounds familiar to me. We have 6-year-old and 3-year-old, and 2 little girls. One's in kindergarten and one's at a little school. But it's always like the ups and downs, and then a curveball is thrown at you because so-and-so got sick at school, and I got to go run over here, and my husband's going here to go grab who knows who and make it work. Because I think that the community aspect of how you take care of yourself and how you're able to be present for your family and for your, and for your jobs and for, anything else that is important to you, like health-wise, thinking about what we all can do for ourselves in order to be able to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of other people. There's, all of those different elements that can sometimes feel, at least to me, sometimes like an extra pressure that I have to think through of like, oh, I need to prioritize this in my own schedule. I need to prioritize, this call and all of the things instead of slowly chipping away and doing the best we can and having this amazing community around us to support us, whether or not it's organizations like RVWA or, any other things that we're involved in, but choosing things very intentionally so that you're involved in the things that you really care about. And all of those things can work together to be able to really elevate your life as a whole. But
Yeah,
Brenda,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in, Brenda, but I was just gonna build off that. Another thing, I do think it's important to learn what to say no to. And I think you were kind of headed there, and I've not done a good job of that in the past. And that's another tactic that especially when we're in leadership, there's so many demands on your time outside of the office, and you have to really be, you have to choose because you can't do everything. And I read something once, like, unless it's like a hell yes, it's a no. And so I've been trying to be better about that, and saying no has actually helped a lot in achieving more balance at home and here.
I love that, like actually putting a gauge against what your yes looks like. And if you're mediocre, it's probably got to go.
Right.
So all in or not in at all. That's great. Brenda, what about you?
I am not good at this. So I am, so much of what Toby said just resonated with me. And this is probably one of the instances where don't do as I say and not as I do, because I don't set a great example for work-life balance. I probably traveled 42, 43 weeks last year on the road. But this was a year that I decided that I was going to do less of that and more of, because not only for my personal life, but also just for professional effectiveness. If you're in airports all the time and on the road and going and doing, there's other things that fall through the cracks. But I couldn't do it without obviously my supportive partner. Like I've talked about, he's the rock and he does it, but I have a responsibility to the people that I work with to show up sometimes in a different way. The things I've stopped doing is emailing overnight. I'm sure many of you know, if you get that 1 to 3 wake up, the kind of open schedule where you're awake, and magnesium is now my friend, but where you're like, I no longer respond to emails in the middle of the night. I tried not to call people after hours and just be really thoughtful about that. Taking time away to just recharge, right? Whether it's a long extended weekend. Unfortunately, in the industry that and the part of the business that I support, we're sales driven. So, our business is happening when people are typically off and wanting to do things and enjoy time with their family. But yeah, not something I've been great at historically, something I'm definitely working on. And I know for me to be the best version of myself, and to be the best mom and the best wife and the best leader, the best coworker, the best employee, whatever, I have to do a better job at finding that balance. Things that I love to do in my personal life, I'm a sports fanatic. I'm a little sad right now. Congratulations to all of you. If you still have a team in basketball, I do not. So go Braves. We've moved on to baseball now, but I love sports. I think there's something about sports and competitiveness and community and discipline. And I often talk about some of the best folks to hire are previous college athletes or former military, right? Just the self-discipline and what that is. So yeah, I think, unfortunately, Ashton, I can't set a positive tone on that because I haven't done it, but it's something I'm working on. I'm a work in progress for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that we all are. I think that there's, I listen to various podcasts and some of the other things than, different books that I'm reading. And I'm like, oh, I can grab like that little nugget today. And I could try to put that piece into action in my own life. And even if it's just one thing that I can grab, I think that that's sometimes it's a habit. It's a small thing that can become a habit that can end up being highly impactful. So I'm always looking for the nuggets. It might not be like a massive change, but at least if there's little things I can continue to be aware of and chip away at, it helps.
Yeah, I think Toby mentioned like different podcasts. Isn't it so awesome to have all this content on demand now for whatever it is that you might be experiencing or what that is to be able to just have that connection or validation
Oh,
so that you can find a path forward. So yeah, a lot of similarities there. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we're getting kind of close on our time. So I'm going to ask you all one more question, then we can open it up for Q&A to everybody else who's here. But I would just love to know, as far as any strategies or anything that you guys would think about as you talk to other people. I know that we've shared a lot about how we would be able to lend advice. But is there anything that's top of mind for you if you're thinking about rising as a whole, like as a person who is this far in your career? What is it that you would want to encourage? Like if you could leave one piece of advice, what would you encourage younger professionals to be able to be aware of and think through as they continue to rise in their career and in life? Let's start with Toby.
Sure. I have one. So I talked about speaking up earlier, but another one that I think is really important is standing out. And what that looks like for me, and when I was early in my career, and there's still ways I incorporate that now, is there is focusing on things you do better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And becoming an expert at something, or throwing, your curiosity into learning as much about something, because then you start to be the go-to for that person. And I can point to very pivotal changes in my career was when I became the go-to on something. And, like I said earlier, my example was I was in a sea of associate brand managers in food marketing, which is a standard path out of business school. And I had the interest in digital, and that was when digital was new for brands. This was like 2008. And brands were just starting to get online. And I really resonated with me. And I learned more about digital marketing than every other marketer working at my company because I was interested in it. And lo and behold, the company eventually created a position of head of digital marketing for all the brands that they gave to me. And soon I launched all of our brands at that time. This was my previous company onto social media, and led digital ad campaigns, worked on the overhauls of their website, et cetera. And that's what brought me to KOA, was this digital job. So I've got various women in my organization that I give that advice to, and I have seen it really work for them, that they focus on something they're really interested and passionate about. And I'm never going to tell somebody no on training, investing in training if they're coming in with real passion and energy behind something. And I've seen people really catapult their careers by figuring out what they can stand out and do differently than everybody else.
That's extremely practical advice, and I love it. I love hearing about if I hear anytime that somebody wants to go and learn, please. Like everybody benefits from anybody continuing to get better at their world and their job and serving their curiosity well. So I love that. That's super practical. Thank you. Donna, what about you? What kind of advice would you leave?
I would say don't sweat the small stuff. I mean, you don't want to get things to kind of drag you down, because there's nothing that can't be, if it's a problem, there's nothing that can't be resolved. So don't let it get you so stressed out to where you're not going to have good judgment and stuff from it. Don't let negative people drag you down. Just stay positive and optimistic. Sometimes I like when I've got somebody, I'm not saying it's any direct customers and stuff like that, but if I get someone that we talk to and they're not in a very good mood and stuff, I find out my goal and objective to turn that around and to put some humor behind things. So sometimes laughter, I always say it's better to laugh than cry over things. So, I try to twist things around to make things more upbeat and positive and just encouraging, because whatever was happening, nothing can be that bad. If you got a roof over your head, you got a job, you got a family, you got friends, that's what life is about. So you've got a lot of the good things. So don't let things that are not quite as relevant drag you down. Just be positive and, be friendly if you're out traveling in the industry, be friendly even to your competitors, because you never know, one day they could be your boss. So best practice just to get along with everybody. And yeah, I just say be positive and take things one day at a time. Don't give up. You can do it.
Love it. Thank you. Brenda, what about you?
I think for me, it's kind of three things that kind of direct me, and it's to be curious. So I always want to ask questions and try to learn and understand more about the why. be helpful. I think that that's one of the things that has created a lot of opportunity for me, is when you just show up and you're putting your best foot forward and you are really trying to empower and connect, and sometimes it's correct or fix, but just being helpful and then being thoughtful, because we don't know what people have going on in their lives. So when people show up at the office or our customers, whatever that is, I think that there has to be a high level of empathy to be able to connect. And if people don't believe that your intentions are good, or that you really genuinely care about their best interest or what the outcome is for them personally and their family, it can be very damaging. But when it works and when there's connection there, I mean, you can't stand in our way, because we will not sound so nice, but we'll run you over, right? It's like just about being able to provide that sense of connection and community. And that's the thing I'm most proud of about the group of individuals that I work with. There's no pride in authorship. It is allowing other people to have a voice and to come in, and you don't always have to speak up. Sometimes it's better to be quiet and listen and then react later. I think as a younger person entering my career, I was quite reactionary, and I wanted to, it was like, it's not that there was something to prove, but sometimes less is more. And then going back to just one of my favorite folks that I like to listen to, not everybody's going to like you, and people are going to have opinions, but you show up every day, you be true to yourself, and whatever that is, just let them do it, because it doesn't really impact you at the end of the day. It could impact you, but it necessarily shouldn't, not personally anyway, because yeah. So just be curious, be helpful, be thoughtful, and just clear the path for others, men and women. So I think that's so important.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, it has been a complete honor to be able to share the room with you guys today, and to be able to learn from each of you. I resonate so much with what you all are saying, and I just feel like there's so much strength in being able to share our stories, and to be able to think about how to be able to gain those little glimpses from each of us that give way and give power and strength to each other.